welcome to our first full day of session, spring session. Birds are happy, the peonies are happy, the grass is happy, it's gotten lots of water this spring. I'm happy. Are you happy? So our text this week is the Diamond Sutra. I wanted to read bits and pieces of it to you. This is from the foreword, and it's from the Precepts of the Gurus, which I've never heard of before. It's a great joy to realize that the path to freedom that all the Buddhas have trodden is ever existent, ever unchanged, and ever open to those who are prepared to enter upon it. It's quite exciting, isn't it? Open to everyone. It's hard work, though. It's really hard work. So I want to give you just some background on what the Diamond Sutra is and where it came from. It's also called the Diamond Cutter Sutra. And since diamonds are very hard, the concept of cutting through a diamond is like cutting through our own minds. Very hard to do, to cut through that self. It's a small part of a much larger sutra, the Prajnaparamita Sutra, which I believe is 8,000 lines, dense text. But the Heart Sutra also is an excerpt from the Prajnaparamita Sutra. The Prajnaparamita Sutra is the practice of transcendental wisdom. That's what that means. So both the Heart Sutra and this sutra capture and epitomize the whole. So by studying either one of those, you get a really good insight into what the Prajnaparamita Sutra is about. So this is a very short text. It's really not very long. Little brief paragraphs that seem like they're easy to get when you read them. But it's really a practice to absorb and understand this text, just like the Heart Sutra. So reading it and studying it and meditating on it is transformative. It changes your perspective on the world and on yourself. And you realize something of what this path is heading towards. So it should be read multiple times. Just preparing for this talk, I read it a couple of times. And each time I saw something new. So just now, getting ready for the talk as I was putting it all together, I saw something very clearly that I hadn't seen any of the previous times in the very first paragraph, which I thought was interesting, so I will share it with you in a moment. But essentially, this text is about absolute reality. So I think most of you know that Buddhism is about two kinds of reality, absolute and relative. And that the relative reality, which is true, it's also true, is the reality of our daily lives, our sense of you and me, a dualistic point of view. I'm here and everything out there is separate from me. And that's really most of how we live until we really absorb this absolute reality pretty completely. And speaking personally, that's something that comes and goes. It's not something that I can stay with all the time. I don't know how it is for other seekers of the path, other teachers, other whether they can stay with it long time or not. But I see it most clearly when I'm in Sesshin, which is why I find Sesshin to be, I need the full week, to be such a powerful, powerful training. It really opens something that you didn't know was closed. So, the study of the Diamond Sutra, like all Buddhist practice, leads to transformation. So I want to just read a couple of quotes for you. There's this is from A.Y., what's his name? A.Y. Wentz, something Wentz. Evans Wentz. He's a well-known scholar. He's passed away now, but he has written a couple of important scholarly works. And this preface, so far as I'm concerned, is one of them. It's really a good preface. So he says, when the butterfly has escaped from the chrysalis state and has cast aside his cocoon prison house, its former state as an earthbound crawling caterpillar becomes obsolete. So that's about our breaking the bonds of self. Our ability and our perseverance to really break free of ego. It's not easy. It comes up and just captures us, and we're stuck there for a bit. Like the fabled frog who imagined the water in his well to be unsurpassed in depth and vastness, and know not of the deep, vast ocean, world-fettered men comprehend only the small and know not of the great. They fail to comprehend the far-reaching significance of St. Paul's pronouncement. The things that are seen are temporal, the things that are unseen are eternal. So we think we've got the whole picture. You know, we break through a little bit here, we break through a little bit there, and we keep practicing. But a complete breakthrough is really, and it can happen gradually. It doesn't happen. It has to happen in a momentous experience. Is really just the beginning of practice. Those breakthroughs just start. They give us the insight we need. I think I will bow to the siren. They give us the insight we need to see, for that instant, that we are just a small self. But living from that place is really the practice. That's what's interesting and hard and so profoundly rewarding. Because it shifts everything. It shifts everything. And this book, this text, is a guide to that shore. It's a guide to the other shore. And it's only through practice and study that we can reach that other shore. It's not, there's no other way to do it. So when we practice, the mind has the capacity to separate the awakened mind, the part of our mind that is awakened, has the capacity to separate us from our thoughts. So by coming back over and over and over again to our breath, we watch the thoughts come and go, we get caught up in them, we come back to our breath. That practice is what opens the door. It just is, I mean, it's hard, it's boring, it's unrewarding, and then you get a reward. And then it's back to hard, boring, unrewarding, and then again the door opens. So over and over and over again, our back's breaking, our knees are hurting, our ankles hurt, body's exhausted, And yet, because the door was open even for a glimpse, we keep coming back. There's something within us that knows that our engagement in the self is insane, and that this is the path to sanity. We don't become saints, but we do become wise, we become compassionate, we care deeply about others, we care deeply about the earth itself and all sentient beings, and we actually get happier. It's really quite wonderful. It's worth the hard work. So Wentz says that salvation is not, contrary to what the multitude is taught to believe, purchasable by good works. It's not the giving away in charity of worldly treasures, however inconceivably great, that matters, but the practicing and dissemination of the Buddha Dharma. So though charity is quite important, we can get trapped in the idea that by doing good work, or making magnificent contributions, that we are coming from a right place in practice. These acts can be traps for the ego. They look good on the outside, but only we know whether we're trapped in the ego itself. We have to really let go of what it looks like, appearances. And all of this is empty, all of it. The Buddha denied the reality of all predictable things: ego, soul, appearances, merit, even liberation and non-liberation, even the idea of Buddhahood and non-Buddhahood. And that's what this sutra makes, that's the point it makes over and over and over again. Even the idea of transcendence, the perfect transcendence, is just as empty. The idea of transformation or making a shift, empty, empty, empty. Absolute reality is simply oneness. Oneness, no distinction. No passing away, no coming into existence, and nothing is really acquired by so-called attaining enlightenment. There is really nothing to attain. You're just a process, a state of process, a being that's changing moment by moment. So I want to move to the sutra itself and talk about this first paragraph, the convocation of the assembly. I have to say I read this 3 or 4 times before I got what was important about it. So I'll read it. See if you get it. Maybe some of you have been working on this, you'll get it more quickly than I got it. The convocation of the assembly. It's very short. I hate to read when I'm giving a talk. Thus have I heard. Upon a time, Buddha sojourned in Anathapindika's park by Shravasti with a great company of bhikshus, even 1,250. One day, at the time for breaking fast, the world-honored one, enrobed, and carrying his bowl, made his way into the great city of Shravasti to beg for his food. In the midst of the city, he begged from door to door according to rule. This done, he returned to his retreat and took his meal. When he had finished, he put away his robe and begging bowl, washed his feet, arranged his seat, and sat down. So nothing much happens in here. You know, we all know this is what the Buddha did. This is what the Theravadan monks do. Even the Zen monks in Japan go out and beg. I can't say I've ever done it, except for donations. Maybe I have done some begging in my life, but not for my breakfast. So what is happening here? He's modeling for us what having let go of the ego looks like. It's not very comfortable to beg, to really be dependent on others for your food and what they put in your bowl. You don't even look at what they're putting in, you know, you hold your bowl and you look down and you bow and you give them a blessing. And only later do you see what's in your bowl. In fact, the Buddha died from something that was put in his bowl. I don't know whether, nobody knows whether it was a poison mushroom or a bad mushroom, little E. coli, but that was the cause of his death. Somebody put something, probably, I mean, not necessarily from malice, so who knows, but it was not pure. So we don't really know what it looks like, somebody without any ego at all. Do we recognize it when we see it in front of us? Perhaps not. Perhaps not, but this is a picture of it. So simple. No belongings. Just those robes, which frankly are kind of hot in the summer in India and Sri Lanka. You want to wear a lot less than those robes. So that's the beginning. That's the entrance to the path. Letting go of ego. Letting go of ego. Being humble. So, then Subhuti, one of his, favored students, I guess, because he's in a lot of the sutras asking questions always, asked a question. If good men and good women seek the consummation of incomparable enlightenment, by what criteria should they abide, and how should they control their thoughts? Two really important questions. How should they abide? How should they live? And how should they control their minds? Almost everything we do is about taming our minds. It's hard. It's really hard. And living, how should we live? So we take the precepts, and that really is our guide on how to live. But they are very hard to maintain. Very hard to maintain. So the Buddha says, I will declare to you by what criteria good men and good women seeking the consummation of incomparable enlightenment should abide and how they should control their thoughts. And then he begins to describe the Absolute. All living creatures, and this chapter, this short chapter, is entitled The Real Teaching of the Great Way. So all living creatures of whatever class, born from eggs, from wombs, from moisture, or by transformation, whether with form or without form. So I just want to pause there because he is including everything. Everything. There's nothing excluded in this list of living creatures. Or by transformation, whether with form or without form. So we don't see the without form. No idea what that might be. Ghosts, phantoms, other beings that we don't know about. But whatever is out there that we can't see, hear, feel, otherwise sense, they too are included. Whether in a state of thinking or exempt from thought necessity or wholly beyond all thought realms, all these are caused by me to attain unbounded liberation nirvana. Yet, when vast, uncountable, immeasurable numbers of beings have thus been liberated, verily no being has been liberated. Because no bodhisattva who is a real bodhisattva cherishes the idea of an ego entity, personality, a being, or a separated individuality. So this is really the heart of Buddhism. Anatta, no self, no separate self. So just take a second here and sense our interconnectedness. Just focus on it. When I work as a therapist and I see couples, I pay a lot of attention to how the energy flows between them and how connected they are. So I'm kind of hyper aware of moments when the connection is broken and moments when it's repaired. Nothing is more important than connection in relationship and to our environment, to the world, to all other beings. It really matters. So our bodhisattva vows, the 4 great vows that we say at least once a day, sometimes more than that, are essentially about bringing all beings to this liberated state. And we essentially don't worry so much about whether we get liberated or not. We're really committed to liberating others. This chapter, number 4, is called Even the Most Beneficent Practices Are Relative. In the practice of charity, a bodhisattva should be detached. He should practice charity without regard to appearances, without regard to sound, odor, touch, flavor, or any quality. Subhuti, thus should the bodhisattva practice charity without attachment. So this makes the same point as earlier, only this is now the Buddha speaking, or somebody Buddha-like. Nobody knows what the source of this particular sutra is. It's very old. Practicing charity is so easily an ego activity. So easily. I remember when I was getting involved in that Sri Lanka project, I began to worry about the ego, my own ego, and how big a project it began to feel like. And, you know, I could feel a little, what's the word? When your ego expands.
Inflated.
Inflated, thank you. I know one of you smart people would know the words. I felt a little inflated, and I was really worried about it. So I sent a note to Nicolai saying, I'm really excited about this project, but it feels a little inflated to me. And she said, oh, go with the inflation. Just imagine you're going to win the Nobel Prize. It completely stuck a needle into the inflation. I thought, oh, I'm not that inflated. Good. I let it all go. It was really an amazing upaya, skillful means on her part to help me let that go. But we do get, we do get fed by, by doing charitable works. So it's very important to try to discern, the satisfaction that comes from helping others, liberating others, working to help liberate others, from looking good, doing good because it feels good. It's very subtle. It's very subtle and hard to discern. Hard to discern. So the last chapter that I want to talk about is the understanding the ultimate principle of reality. Is the Subhuti, what do you think? Is the Tathagata to be recognized by some material characteristic? Can you see a Tathagata when you meet him? Can you discern him? Not really. You can see certain elements. This is kind of important to trust your own ability to discern. You can see somebody who's kind and wise and gentle and compassionate and honorable, has integrity. But you have to really know somebody to know the depths of their enlightenment. And the truth is, they can't see it themselves, because the moment they start to think about it, they're caught up in their own ego. And it's really about just functioning freely in the world, and hoping that you're coming from a place of true wisdom and compassion. And you can't expect that anybody else is going to recognize it in you, because chances are they won't. And I always get suspicious of people who have a lot of charisma. And because it's usually fair to say that there's a lot of ego that goes with charisma. I don't know if that's true 100% of the time. But it's kind of a problem. It's easier to trust some poor, obscure monk than somebody who's got a sangha of 1,000 monks. They used to have sanghas of 1,000 monks in the old days. Nowadays I don't know, some people have large sanghas. Trungpa Rinpoche had a huge, thousands. No, world-honored one, the Tathagata cannot be recognized by any material characteristic. Wherefore? Because the Tathagata has said that material characteristics are not, in fact, material characteristics. Form is emptiness. It's all empty. So, what would a material characteristic be? Wisdom, empty. Compassion, empty. The moment you put a name on it, it's a problem. The moment you put a name on it. So imagine functioning freely in the world without thinking about yourself at all. The Buddha said there is delusion, but whoso perceives that all characteristics are in fact no characteristics perceives the Tathagata. So it's very mysterious in the end. Nothing. No ground. No place to feel you can sit here and say, I finally got it. What a trap, huh? So you just keep moving forward, not getting it, not knowing, and letting go over and over and over again of the very idea of getting it, of attaining it, of having it. It's hopeless. Nothing to hold on to. And these are just words that just get in the way, because it plants a thought in your head called not holding on to anything. And that thought is a problem. Not that there's a problem with thoughts per se. They're just what the mind does. But we measure ourselves constantly. Am I holding on to it? Am I attaining it? Did I just get it? What was that just happened? Can I let it go? Can I just put one step in front of the other in practice? Can I go for a walk and just listen to the birds? I love the way the birds are always part of our talks. Mm-hmm. They always know when to sing to us. Can I let go of whatever it was that just upset me? Step out of it, see how empty it is. Can I practice with everything that comes my way? So I wanted to read you a couple of poems by Dogen, who is a master of putting into words what is really hard to put into words. A snowy heron on the snowfield where winter grass is unseen hides itself in its own figure. Just white upon white upon white. This one he calls on non-dependence of mind. Water birds coming and going, their traces disappear, but they never forget their path. Can we do that? Water birds coming, going and coming, their traces disappear, but they never forget their path. We so want to leave traces. And this one's called On the Treasury of the True Dharma Eye. Waves recede. Not even the wind ties up a small abandoned boat. The moon is a clear mark of midnight. We are the small boats. Waves recede, not even the wind ties up a small abandoned boat. Nothing to hold on to. Absolutely nothing. The moon comes and goes. Only marks the darkness. Empty. Empty. Then I thought I would close with this quote that I liked at the time is fleeting, learning is vast. No one knoweth the duration of one's life. Therefore use the swan's art of extracting milk from water, and devote thyself to the most precious path. Unusual quote. Thank you for your attention.